Okay, first, a little announcement. First of all, subscribe to the Tzion YouTube channel and make comments if you want. I answer them as often as I can. Now, here's the thing. My often is going to get less and less for about a month. So we're not going to be, I'm not going to be sending out teachings for about a month. I'm not sure when it's going to start, either next week or the week after. So subscribe and like and send it to other people so they can subscribe and learn tavniot, pictures, because that's what we teach here. It's different from, that's what's different about this congregation. We teach only pictures, only tavniot. If it's not tavniot, what is it? Anybody know what's the other part of the law? Dot, which is the curse of the law. There is no in between. Number one. Number two, you cannot do both at the same time. It's impossible. You can either do the Torah as dot, as law, to try to please God somehow, or you can do it to learn from, and there is no in between. So, this teaching from lecha is, lecha is a very, very hard to translate, and I'll talk about it, is titled, A Great Gentile is a Jew. Now, on purpose, I called it A Great Gentile is a Jew. That's what the text says, but I want you to understand that there is no other this is the pinnacle of what God has been trying to talk about for 4,000 years. 4,000 years since Abraham is Jew and Gentile. It's the one thing nobody will talk about. But this is what God has been trying to talk about for 4,000 years. What is a Jew? What is a Gentile? I mean, everybody thinks they know, but you don't know. You don't know. You don't know unless you followed that trail from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. Then you can know. But unless you've done that, if you've read all the texts and you've read all the words of the Chazal, the rabbis, all the text of the Torah in Hebrew, or at least some of it in Hebrew, and followed all the words of the Chazal, you cannot possibly know what it means. What does it mean when God says a Jew and a Gentile? It's impossible to know, which is why we have 150 million opinions about what it is. Or else there'd be a unified opinion, wouldn't there? If it was easy, if it was simple, wouldn't everybody know and go, oh, yeah, we know that, right? Just the opposite is true. Just go on the internet and type in, what is a Jew? And your head will just explode. 150,000 opinions. What is a Jew? What is a Gentile is even worse. It's even worse. And if you say a Gentile is either a nation or a non-Jew, you are wrong. 100% wrong. So, that's why I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to clarify. Now, a few weeks ago, I clarified why do we study the words of the Chazal, the words of the rabbis, the words of the sages. I made it crystal clear. I got a lot of really good feedback. People were like, oh, that's what it is. That's why we do that. Yeah. So now I'm going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to try to do the same thing. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to do my best to try to clarify what is a Jew and what is a Gentile, at least in God's sight, not in our sight, in God's sight. The reason I'm doing this is, I'm going to say it again, this is the pinnacle, the most important message that God gave. It is impossible to understand Yeshua coming as the Messiah unless you understand this. And I can make it super simple for you. Abraham did Judaism. And that throws a monkey wrench into everything. Everything. All Messianic Jewish doctrine, all Christian doctrine, and all Jewish doctrine, unless they follow the story from beginning to end, which a lot of Jews, not Messianic Jews, a lot of Jews do. So they've got it better than Christians and Messianic Jews. Why? Because they've got the whole story from beginning to end. And they read it, and they follow it, and they study it. Okay. So here's We're going to look at two passages. This is the first passage, Genesis 12. Do we need to turn the lights off? Yes? Okay, go ahead. Can somebody turn the lights off, please? Genesis 12. I've got it in both English and Hebrew for you. God said to Avram, not to Avraham, Avram, go to you. Now that's literally what it says, lech lecha. Go to you from your house, from your birthplace. It's kind of hard to translate this word. We'll call it birthplace. And your father's house. Leave three things. The most three important things in your entire life. Leave them. Vayomer Adonai el Avram, lech lecha, go to you, me'artzecha, from your land. I'm going to butcher this word, but I'm going to try. Umimoledecha. Umimoledecha. It's very hard to pronounce this. Moladetcha. That's it. Moladetcha. Moladetcha. No. Moladetcha. There's a shva and a shva. Moladtecha. Moladtecha. Okay. Man, that's hard. That's from your, they translate it your birthplace, but it's not really your birthplace. It's from your birth, really. From your birth.
Can it mean also like from away from your family?
Well, that's the next one. Umabeit avecha, your father's house. Now that's your culture and your home and your family.
Your identity.
Yes. So these three things together that Avram was told to leave are his whole identity. How old was he when God said this to him? 75. 75 years old. He has lived 75 years amongst the Babylonians. 75 years. It's everything. It's every single thing about how he thinks and what he does and his actions and his family and his culture and his house. And God says, leave all of that. And what does he say? Okay. Which is insanity. I mean, we're not told that he argued. We're not even told that in the words of the rabbis. They never say he put up a fight. They never say he argued or he cried or he fasted, or which, they did in some other cases when God told people to do things. They sort of freaked out. But here, for some reason, he tells them to leave absolutely everything about his life, start over from scratch at the age of 75, and he goes, okay, which is just phenomenal. And then he says, leave all that and go to, and if you don't know the answer to this, we went through this over and over and over and over and over, the land. And we're going to look at it again. Right, very good. He tells them to go to the kingdom that I will show you. So in other words, he took him there and showed it to him. Hasn't even come yet, and he showed it to him. I will make you into and this is what I'm going to teach on, Goy Gadol. Great Gentile. A big Gentile. Now they translate it nation because Goy means nation. But it doesn't mean nation. It means something more than that. It means something way more than that. The Goy Gadol. I'm going to turn you into a Goy Gadol. When?
Yeah.
Right. When he takes him to the land. When he gets to the land, in that land, the kingdom, that's when he's going to be a Goy Gadol. Not before. Because that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to try to explain that as best I can. I will bless you, I will make your name great, and you'll be a blessing. I will bless who bless you, and curse, and this is a very strange word, by the way, or. It is not from or light. It's a different word. It's from the word for curse. It's a totally different word, and it's not even pronounced or. But he says, kalalecha, the one who curses you, or, I'll curse.
Like either one
No,
only talks about-
no, or does not mean destroy. It does not. Now, Avram was 75 years old when he left from Haran. 75 years old. Avram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his nephew, and all their possessions, which they got, and the persons, and this is what it says in Hebrew, the persons, or souls, actually is what it says in Hebrew, the souls that they had made in Haran. What does that mean? That's converts. They made souls. Now, when you guys got born again, when we got born again, we were given a different soul. Obviously a different spirit, but we were given a different soul. Our life changed. Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. It's taken a long, long time for that soul to develop, right? I mean, God didn't light a switch and all of a sudden, whoa, I'm different. It didn't happen. If that did happen to you, we need to have a talk because you're living in a dream world. But that doesn't happen. It takes time for the soul to change. But they made souls. And what that means, the rabbis all say, that means they made converts. Okay. Now, how old was he when he left Haran? 75. How did he get to Haran? Okay, let's go to the end of the last Torah portion, which is Genesis 11. Last week's Torah portion ended at Genesis 11. And the very last verse of it tells how he got there. And it's very strange. I've only mentioned this one other time. 11:31. Terach, his father. Terach, the idol worshiper. Did you know Terach was an idol worshiper?
Yes.
Okay. Terach, the idol worshiper, took Avram, his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Avram's wife, and they went out together from Ur of the Chazdim in order to enter the land of Canaan. Who was leading them to the land of Canaan? Terach, the idol worshiper. Did you ever see that before? In order to enter the land of Canaan. And they went as far as Haran and stopped and settled there. Now, there's no lecha for Terach. God didn't show up to Terach and say, lecha, go inside yourself and find who you are and change everything about your life, did he? It just says, Terach said, hey, let's go to Haran. In fact, we're going to go to the land of Canaan, the promised land. But there's no lecha. That's why they never made it to Canaan. They stopped way up north in Syria at Haran. Then God said, Lech lecha, to Avram. And then Avram led them to Canaan, the, quote, promised land. Does that make sense? So it sounds like if you just read it at face value, it sounds like, well, wait a minute. God spoke to Terach to go to the land, to go to the kingdom, to go to the promised land. There is no Lech lecha there. It's just some dude wanting to do something. That's why they never made it.
It doesn't say why he left.
Doesn't say why he left. And by the way, the rabbis do. There's all kinds of backstory that the rabbis tell about why he left. And it never, never gets God involved. Because he was an idol worshiper. They set out for Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan. Avram passed through the land as far as the site of Shechem. Anybody remember what Shechem means? Ridge of
The neck.
shoulders. The ridge of the shoulders. Very good. The ridge of the shoulders. So they got there to Shechem, which is, by the way, right in the center of the land, to the oak of Moreh. Moreh means teacher. So my question is, why is it called the oak of the teacher? What's your best guess?
The teachers would sit under that tree.
The teacher. What teachers? What teachers?
Teachers of Torah.
There were no teachers of Torah in the land, because it says that in the next verse, or the next part of the verse. Now the Canaani, the Canaanite, was then in the land. So who were the teachers? Abraham and Sarah. It was called the Oak of Moreh later. He started teaching in the land, but teaching what? And that's what we're going to. Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Terah means wanderer.
Terach. Yeah, it's the same word. Terach is the same word as moon, yareach, which means wanderer. That's correct. So there at Shechem, and he starts teaching in a pagan world about God, the one God. Now the Canaani was then in the land. The Lord appeared to Avram and said, to your seed, I'm going to give you this land. Okay? We all on the same page? Yes? No? Okay, he has left Haran, gone directly south to Israel, because God showed him the land he was going to take him to, but it's not Israel. I'll show you what it is. It's the kingdom. I'll show you that in a bit. Now, here's a second passage we're going to look at. It's in the same Torah portion. It's in Genesis 15. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Avram in a vision, saying, do not fear, Avram, I am a shield to you. Your reward will be very great. Now, the reason he's telling him this is because he's now, at this point, he's 90. And this is when he makes the covenant with God at the age of 90. Does he have any kids?
No.
Oh, yes, he does. Ishmael. He's got Ishmael. However, Ishmael is trash. He's trash. And God promises Abraham a new son. He says, I'm going to bless Ishmael. But he's a horrible, horrible person. Horrible. In fact, he's going to make war with everybody he comes in contact with. He's a wild donkey of a man. But I'm going to bless him, and guess what I'm going to make him? A goy gadol. But not in the kingdom. He's going to make him a goy gadol now, which we'll talk about. So, he doesn't have somebody that he can give everything to, an heir. And so this is why God is saying this to him. Your reward will be very great. But Avram said, Lord God, what will you give me? Because I'm childless. Childless, what about Ishmael? He doesn't exist? Nope, he's trash. That's just the way it is. Since you have given me no son, what about Ishmael? You've given me no son. One who has been born in my house is my heir. Then, behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, one who will come from your own body will be your heir. And he took him outside and said, now look toward the heavens and count the stars, if you're able to count them. And he said to him, so shall your seed be. What will your seed be? Like what? Okay, so what we're usually taught is this. God takes him outside and says, look up at the stars. That's what your kids will be like. Just the opposite. I'll show you. It's just the opposite. It's look down. And I'll show you why it says that. Well, you got to pay attention. Now look toward the heavens and count the stars, and if you're able to count them. And he said to him, so shall your seed be. Then he believed in the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. So because we read it, took him outside and said, now look toward the heavens. You know, everybody goes, okay, he's looking like this. He's not. He's looking down. So where is he if he's looking at the heavens but looking down? That's the question. We'll talk about it. Can you see what's going on here? There's a dude sticking his head outside the sphere of the heavens. He's looking beyond the heavens. Now this is done, it's a woodcut done by a Gentile in the 1800s. It's an anonymous woodcut. We don't even know who did it, but it's an amazing picture. It's from a book by Camille Flammarion, L'atmosphère meteorologie. I can't even pronounce that. Meteorologie populaire, which means popular meteorological astronomy. This is it's a book about astronomy in France in the 1800s. Paris, 1888. Okay? And this appears in that book. So it's about peering beyond the heavens. Make sense? Now this is what the rabbis say about Avraham doing the same thing. That he looked beyond the heavens. He took him outside and said, now look toward the heavens and count the stars if you're able to count them. And he said to them, that's how your seed will be. Then he believed in the Lord, and God credited to him as righteousness. Everybody loves to quote this verse in Romans. That's when he believed in the Lord, and the Lord credited to him as righteousness. But nobody ever talks about what happened. This is what happened that caused him to believe that God was going to give him a child. So here's what the rabbis say, at least a little part of what the rabbis say. Yes?
So I think that the reason people don't see it like that is because they're not holding on to that part of the sentence that said, this is basically a dream. He's showing him in a vision.
Yes,
So
very
it's
good.
a
Very
vision,
good.
like
He
it's
said,
like
the passage started with, he showed him in a vision,
In a vision,
right?
yeah.
So he's seeing something
From
not
the kingdom.
something not worldly,
Yeah.
not of this earth. So here's what the rabbis say. Rabbi Yehuda, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, said he raised him above the heavens and said to him, gaze now toward the heavens. So if he's above the heavens, which way is he looking? Down. Gaze means nothing other than from above to below. Now, you don't have to believe these words. I believe them. Why? Because I looked up all the verses they quote to get to this point. So you can either trust me or not trust me. You can trust the Chazal or not trust the Chazal. I trust it because I did the research. What they're doing is they're taking all the words from the Torah, the Tanakh, that are this word for to gaze. All right? And they put them all together and they look at the context of every one of those verses, and every single one of them means to look down. He was in a tower and he gazed out and saw Abimelech, I'm sorry, not Abimelech, can't remember his name, Asahel running to give David a message. He's up in the top of a tower. And David gazed upon Bathsheba. He's up in his house looking down on her taking a bath. And there's many, many other verses that use this word. And it's always the same picture. Somebody's up high, gazing down low. Make sense?
Yes.
So, not looking up at the sky, looking down at the sky. Yes?
Well, isn't there more than one heaven?
There's 3 heavens.
So couldn't he have been taken up to the second heaven and then
No,
to look down?
he's above the 3rd heaven, gazing down at the heavens. The Shamayim. What? There's 3 heavens, yes. He took him outside. Rabbi Yehoshua of Sichnin, in the name of Rabbi Levi. Did he take him outside the world? That the verse should say he took him outside hachutza? Now this is a different word. When it says he took him outside, and then it says gaze toward the heavens, what is that word? He took him outside. Hachutza, sorry. Rather, he showed him the streets of the heavens. He showed him the streets of the heavens. Where do you see the streets of the heavens defined in the Bible? Like shown? Where is that? Revelation what? Very good, though. Revelation 22. That's where it talks about these, quote, streets of heaven. Remember, this is metaphor. It's not real. He showed him the streets of heaven, just as it says, while he had not yet made the heavens and the outer ranges, the chutzot, the heavens. Chutzot. Proverbs 8:26. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, he took him up above the dome of the heavens. That is what he said to him. Look, habet, now to the heavens. The expression habata refers only to looking down from above. So now he gives us the word habet, habata, which means to look down or gaze, what they translate as gaze. Make sense? So you've got all your clues right here to check it for yourself, to see why they came up with this. He wasn't looking up at the stars to count the stars, although he did. Physically he did, but it's so much more than that. He took them above the heavens and said, look down on the heavens. I'm going to show you the land I'm going to take you to. I'm going to give you this land forever. Does that make sense? Yeah? Any questions so far? Yes.
Would he then have been like outside the whole thing about the timeline?
Yes, that's a good way to put it. He was outside the timeline. That's a good way to put it. It says in John 8:58, Abraham saw my day and rejoiced to see it. So he was outside the timeline. And he saw way into the future to the time of Yeshua, but then he saw way, way, way into the future and saw the day of the Lord outside the timeline. I like that, the way you put it. But I love the way this pictures it.
Yeah.
Poking his head beyond the sphere of the heavens. That's kind of cool, right? Okay. God said to Avram, go to you. Lech lecha. Go to you. From your land, from your birthplace, from your father's house. Those of you who are late to services, that's because you haven't left your land. Like the culture from which you come that was built in your home is to be late, and it's no big deal. Right? You got to leave that. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Yes? No? This is only the first example. I'm going to give you more than one. Does that one make sense? No? I'm not hearing anything. No? That doesn't make sense? Okay. Mexicans are slow. Let's put it that way. They're late. They get late places, right? It's just the way it is. It's a cultural thing. Okay? Dominican Republicans, I like saying Republicans, are slow. They get late everywhere. No, that's not how it is? How is it?
I-10, sir.
No, the culture of Dominican Republic, is it slow or fast?
Fast.
Fast, okay, so it's the opposite. It's a fast culture. Jews are ridiculously picayune. You know what picayune means? Picky. Like everything has to be precise. Everything has to be exactly just so. Why? Because we're given 613 things to do and they better be right. Services start at exactly 10:30, not 1 minute later, not 1 minute earlier. That's how we run services. That's how Jews are. It's our culture. We don't have to leave that. But your culture, wherever you come from, your house, wherever you come from, that built all the things in you, leave it. Make sense? Yes. Just like my family. I got all kinds of craziness in my family. I got to leave all my craziness from my family too. If it's Jewish, I don't. If it's anything other than that, I do. Make sense? Yes. Does that make sense or no?
Yeah.
Okay, it takes work, that's all. And everybody's got to do the same work. Well, Avram gave us a template to at least see that it's possible. And how old was he? 75. It's possible. It's possible. Hold on a second. Here's the hard part about it. Which parts are good and which parts are bad? Right? You got to figure it out by doing Judaism. There's no other way to figure it out. Because the only voices you have coming into your life are going to reinforce the same junk that we got in our head. Yes? You don't think that 1 million people told Avram, you're out of your mind? You're doing what? Yeah, I'm out of here. I'm gone. Dude, you're 75. What are you going to do? Take everybody in your house? Yep. You're going to take all these people that you made, that you converted to your weird religion? Yep, I'm taking all of them. But what about our business that we've been doing for 25 years? Sorry, I'm out. I'm out.
And then the worst part is, where you going?
Right, exactly. Where are you going, Avram? I'm not exactly sure.
Somewhere down there too.
Okay? Yeah.
What an amazing picture that Abram is so old, he's 75, but there's still the opportunity and there's still the choice of, I want to live a different way.
It's exactly what I'm saying.
I lived all this time like
It's
this.
exactly what I'm
but I
saying.
wanna change.
I'm saying he was 75. What is our excuse? What's your excuse? It doesn't matter what excuse you come up with. Avram did it. 75. Do you see what I'm saying? The hard part is identifying the problems to leave. That's the hard part. Well, how do you figure them out? Pitch me some ideas of how to figure out what to leave. What do you think? Study Torah. Okay, what else?
How we eat.
Study what? Well, studying the New Testament is not going to help you at all unless you put it together with Torah. Not going to help at all. What else?
Change our diet.
No. How are you going to figure out what to change is what I'm asking.
Well, getting to the Torah.
Okay, how about nobody comes up with this one. It's the simplest one of all. Ask your rabbi. Nobody ever thinks of that. If you're in a synagogue or a temple, that's the first thing they say. And I'm not sure like how to change this. Ask your rabbi. Go talk to your rabbi. First thing everybody says. But in our culture, I don't know, I could do it myself. You can't. So ask your rabbi. Okay? He didn't have a rabbi, which we will talk about. He didn't even have a father. His father died.
Sure, he's died by then.
Yeah, but
So, go to you from your land, from your birthplace, from your dad's house. From your land. Here's what the Hasidic masters, plural, say. Now, when it says Hasidic masters, that brings us into the 1700s. This is the Hasidim, starting with Baal Shem Tov and all of his disciples. From your land, that means from your will. That's the hardest thing of all. Leave your will. Now, the rabbis said for centuries, actually millennia, they said, make God's will your will, and then God will make your will into his will. Make God's will your will, and then God will make your will into his will. He'll do what you want.
Delight yourself in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your
Very good. Delight yourself in the Lord, and then he'll give you the desires of your heart, the ratzon, the desires of your heart. That's exactly the right verse, because it uses the word ratzon, will. Make God's will your will, and then he'll make your will his will. So, from your land, leave your land. From your will, leave your will. Why? Because eretz, the Hebrew word for land, is etymologically related to the word ratzon, will. Did you know that? Land is will. Isn't that strange? Eretz, ratzon, same root. Isn't that bizarre? From your birthplace, that means from your emotional and behavioral self. Why are you late to services? Why are you late to take care of things at home? Why are you lazy to do this or to do that? Why are we not quick to do what we're told by our parents or our wife or our husband or whatever? You know, all these things that we're doing wrong, that's what this is talking about. From your emotional and behavioral self, which is the product of a person's what? Environment. Your culture, your environment. From your father's house. That's from your intellect. Now, where do they get that from? Your father's house is your intellect, your thoughts. Why? Because in the terminology of Kabbalah, don't be scared of Kabbalah, it's just pictures. The intellect is referred to as the father within the man or the woman. Your intellect is your daddy. Your intellect is your daddy. Because it's the progenitor, that means the producer of life, of an authority over his feelings and behavior patterns. Does that make sense? So our intellect is our daddy. We submit to it. We do what it tells us. It tells us to get up and shoot people in a building. We get up and shoot people in a building. It tells us to get to services on time. We get to services on time. It tells us to eat kosher. What do? We eat kosher. If it tells us to go commit adultery, what do? We go commit adultery. It's that simple. It's our intellect, moach in Hebrew. And it's our daddy. And whatever he tells us, we do. So, leave it. Leave it. That means we got to replace it with something. All right? So far what I'm doing here is I'm showing you God is telling us, all of us, to create a giant gaping hole in ourselves. Leave everything we believe, leave everything we think we know, leave everything that we're told by our brain, leave everything in our culture, leave all of it. Now we're left as a big giant gaping hole, right? As a nothing. Yes or no? Yes. This is a problem. But remember what God tells Avram. He tells him, I'm going to make you into a goy gadol, a huge Gentile. Okay? God said to Avram, go inside yourself, away from your own desires, away from your culture and your behavior, and away from your intellect and your thoughts. Leave it all. Go inside of you to a foreign place with a foreign culture and a foreign way to think and behave. All right, don't you think you need a rabbi?
Yes.
You see how important a rabbi is? I know what some people think when they hear this. Do you have a rabbi? I do not. And it is the bane of my existence that I don't have a rabbi. I hate that I don't have a rabbi. I hate it. Every day of my life, I hate it. Who am I supposed to ask? I listen to some rabbis, but they're not my rabbi. A rabbi, I just told you this last night, a rabbi, this is what it says in Avot. It says your daddy brings you into the world. Your rabbi brings you into, guess what? The world to come. The kingdom, right? Your rabbi brings you into the world. Well, how can the rabbi bring you into the world to come unless you ask him questions? I don't have anybody to ask questions of. So what has happened in my life, and I just hate it. I hate it so much. Is I'll ask God the question, and then I'll listen to 50 videos by Rabbi Anava and this other rabbi and another rabbi and another rabbi, and bang, I'll get the answer. I'll get the answer there. You can't do that. You can't, because you have a rabbi. You don't need to do that. You have a rabbi. But if you go out and you try to do that and just hunt around and peck around, you are not going to get the answers you're after. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and this is what I'm going to show you. The rabbis say this. Go inside of you to a foreign place with a foreign culture and a foreign way to think and behave, and you need a tour guide. That's your rabbi. Judaism is weird and foreign. Can we all agree on that? Judaism is weird and it's foreign and it goes counter to everything we've ever been taught. And I'm saying this as a Jew. So I can't even imagine what you guys coming from a Gentile background, what it's like. I can't even imagine it. It's got to be upside down and backwards in every area of your life. It's got to be. And I have compassion for it on some level, but I cannot understand it. I just can't. So I can't fully have compassion about it. Luke 17 says this. When he was asked by the Pharisees, when this is the Pharisees. His brother Pharisees are asking Yeshua the rabbi, when is the Malchut Elohim, also called the Malchut Shemayim, yes, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God? Why would they ask this young rabbi this?
Well, they figured he might know.
That's a good answer. They figured he might know. That's a good answer. He's a pretty good rabbi.
Can I ask somebody who wouldn't?
Pretty good rabbi. He knows some stuff. He's a Pharisee too. Yeshua was a Pharisee. And all his friend Pharisees came and said, when? Why are they asking when the Malchut Shemayim is coming? Why? Because they don't know when the day of the Lord is coming. This is a huge problem. They're supposed to know when it should come. He answered them and said, I'm not going to tell you. That's basically what he says. He says, I'm going to tell you. You know why? They should know. He says the Malchut Hashem is not coming with signs so you can see it. You should know this. And they're not going to say, look here, behold there. For behold, the Malchut Shemayim is betocham, within you. Betocham. Where do we know this word betocham from? Beautiful. Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham. Build for me a sanctuary that I may dwell inside you. Now, by the way, it says it 4 more times in the Tanakh. Israel, I'm going to dwell betocham. Jewish people, I'm going to dwell betocham in the day of the Lord. Jewish people, rebuild the temple, and I'm going to dwell betocham. And then it says it another time in Deuteronomy. I'm going to dwell in you, betocham. They should know that, and they should know when the day of the Lord is coming. But they don't. All right. Now, I don't often do this, but I'm going to quote a Christian saying so you can just so you can see the contrast of what I'm going to say 98% of believers think, feel, and believe about this. Okay? And I'm not doing it to slam the church. I'm doing it so you can see a contrast and say, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Something's wrong here. Okay? Jesus also declared the kingdom of God is in your midst. Here and throughout the Gospels, we discover the reign of God breaking in and changing everything among us is Jesus himself. Then why did they say, drown the Jews in baptismal tanks if they don't convert to Christianity? Do you see a disconnect? If Jesus himself is the kingdom that changes everything, why is there still anti-Semitism in those people who say they believe in Jesus?
Because it's Greek-based thought.
If Jesus himself is the kingdom that changes everything, why is, now I'm going to go to 99%. 99% of the body of Messiah believing in and clinging to and loving replacement theology, that the believers have replaced the Jews. Well,
It's self-serving.
okay, but obviously this can't be true, right? All you have to do is look at history, look at the facts. It cannot be true. Breaking in and changing everything among us is Jesus himself. Cannot be true. As John Timmer explains, just as Jesus' parables proclaim the kingdom of God, so does Jesus' life. His entire mission, his life, his teaching ministry, his death, his resurrection, his ascension proclaims the kingly rule of God. The story of Jesus discloses to us a new way of living. Then why doesn't anybody do a new way of living? Everybody lives exactly like everybody else, except this one stupid, hard-headed, arrogant group called Jews who go against the tide. The only people who live differently. The only people who do differently. Why? Because it's weird, and it's different, and it's bizarre to do Judaism, to study Judaism, to think Jewishly. It's weird. It goes against every single thing about us, especially in this culture. So this can't be true, can it?
No.
It can't be. All we got to do is look at the facts. And you've got millions and millions and millions of people throughout all of history to show you the facts. The story of Jesus discloses to us a new way of living. That is not a true statement. There's nothing new in the New Testament. Nothing. All it does is match perfectly with the Old Testament and explain a couple things. It's good commentary, just like the commentary of the Chazal. It's good commentary that goes right along with it. It's not a new way of living that is marked by total submission to the rule of God. Really? Drowned Jews in the baptismal tank if they don't convert. If the Jews don't convert, burn them and their family at the stake and take everything they own. And by the way, this is not so distant. When did the rule of the papacy end? What year? Anybody know? 1863. That's not that long. Papal rule ended over all of Europe in 1863.
It's less than 200 years.
That's right. That's less than 200 years ago. Marked by total submission to the rule of God. At the same time, Jesus is both proclaimer and proclamation of God's kingly rule. Okay, well, I don't see it. I don't see it anywhere except one place. Hasidic Jews. That's the only place I see it. And I can't get there. I keep trying and trying and trying. I can't get there. It's hard. So if it's hard for me, and I'm supposedly a rabbi, I can only imagine how hard it is for you. Now I'm going to quote a Jewish thing. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, if one is reciting Shema and walking, he must stand still while accepting the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. And why is he saying that? He's saying that when we do the Shema, even if you're walking, you just stop and you focus on what? Accepting the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. That's what the yoke of the kingdom of heaven is. It's in the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength. That's taking on, you say, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to do that. How do you do that? You take on the yoke and say, I'm going to do the mitzvot. That's the kingdom of heaven. It's that simple. Saying, I'm going to do the mitzvot and trying with all your heart, like Abraham did, which I'll show you, that's taking on the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. What's the acceptance of the kingdom of heaven? Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. From when did Israel merit to recite the Shema? Rabbi Pinchas Bar Chama said, Israel merited to recite Shema from the giving of the Torah. When was that? At Shavuot, at Mount Sinai, right? The year 2448. The Holy One, blessed be He, began to speak at Sinai, only with this. He said to them, Shema Yisrael, I am the Lord your God. All of them answered back and said, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. That's the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. We're going to try to do that. Moshe said, "Blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever." That was Moses' answer. Blessed be the name of his what? Kingdom. You're taking on the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. So when the rabbis speak, they always circle back. Like Trump. They always circle back. They take little rabbi trails all over the place, but they always circle back, tie it all together in a nice little bow for us. So, I want to say this again. Israel said, we're going to try. The way they said it was not a seva nishma. We'll do, and then we'll listen. We're going to try. We're going to try our best. There's no perfection in this thing, in Judaism. When we're doing Judaism, whatever we're doing that's in Judaism, we are perfect for that moment. Okay, does that make sense so far? Okay, now Avram gave us this pattern that is just crazy. God said to him, "Go to you," and then he says, "To the land I will show you." Yes? Yes? Lech lecha, go to you, to the land I'm going to show you. And then we have in Numbers when God said to Moshe, "Send to you to the land," and he sends out the 12 what? Tourists. Very good. The 12, not spies, the 12 tourists. They were called to go tour the land, see how fantastic it is, get some margaritas, sit by the sea, enjoy, go up here and enjoy the mountains, go down here and enjoy the landscape, see what God's going to give you there. It's fantastic. Have a good time. And they came back and said, "The place is trash." And so God said, "You're never entering my kingdom." So we've gone over this over and over and over again. I'm going to go over it again because you should memorize this passage. In my opinion, it's the second most important passage in the New Testament. First most important passage is John 1:14. The Torah became a human being. That's the most important thing in the New Testament, that the Judaism became a human. Secondly is this, God's focus on the kingdom. As the Holy Spirit said, today, if you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts. When they provoked me at Kadesh, when God said, send out the 12 tourists. I was angry with this generation and said, I swore in my anger, they shall not enter my menucha. My kingdom, right. Encourage one another as long as it's called today. For we who have believed enter that menucha, just like he said, I swore in my anger. They will not enter my menucha. So whatever he swore they're not entering, we are entering. Although his works were finished from the foundation of the world, because he said concerning the seventh day. So the menucha is a day. The menucha is what God told them they're not entering. The menucha is what we are entering, a day. Seventh day, sorry. And God rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again in this passage, they shall not enter my menucha. So now he relates the seventh day to what they're not going to enter. So this is as clear a passage as is in the scriptures anywhere, to show us that the day of the Lord, the day of rest, is the menucha. It's the kingdom. And again in this passage, they shall not enter my menucha, because if Joshua had given them menucha, he wouldn't have spoken of another day. Not land, day. After that. Consequently, there remains a Shabbat menucha for the people of God, and it's the kingdom. So that's what God showed Avram. How old was he when God showed it to him? 75. How old was he when he made the promise to him that he was going to have a son? 90. Okay, go to you from your land, from your birthplace, from your father's house, to the land I'll show you. So here's some things that the rabbi said about what does that mean, lech lecha? For your benefit. Rashi says, go forth for your benefit, for your good. And there I'll make you into a great nation. But here you will not merit to have children. Moreover, I will make your character known to the world. So those of you who are fretting about what I said, leaving your Gentile ways, leaving being late for services, leaving eating unkosher, whatever the thing is, whatever. If you're fretting about that, good, because it needs to be worked on, but don't fret, because it's for your benefit. It's going to be for your benefit. It's for our benefit that we leave that stuff. Gamzu latova, right. This too is for the good. Go alone. The netziv, I don't know much about the netziv. He was a rabbi, I believe in the 1300s, but I'm not sure. Explains lecha connotes going by himself. Avraham should keep the trip quiet. And while some people did accompany him, the purpose of the trip remained a secret. Doesn't mean people didn't give him hassle about going. They said to him, where are you going? Somewhere, right. I don't know. So do you think he knew or didn't know? He knew, because it says God showed him. Go to the land I will show you. Yeah? He knew, he saw it. He just didn't tell them. Because we have to do it alone. Now, that doesn't mean you do Judaism alone. We do Judaism together. You cannot do Judaism alone. But we going to the kingdom for us is alone. It is done alone. We got our own walk with God. We got to work out our own Yeshua, our own salvation, being afraid that we're going to mess it up. It's my translation, but I like that translation. Okay?
We all have our own stuff we got to leave.
We all got our own stuff we got to leave, right. It's a personal choice. Shabbatai ben Joseph Bass says, lecha means according to your will, according to your nature. But you're supposed to leave your nature, aren't you? According to your will. Lecha means according to you, go to you, according to your will, according to how each individual person is.
Kind of like to whom much is given, much is required. So if you, according to your will.
Hold on. Kind of like to whom much is given, much is required. No, I don't want to go that way. I want to say it this way. That might be true, but I don't want to go that way. According to your will, everybody's different about, number one, their father's house, right? Yes? Everybody's different according to the culture that is in their family, their particular family, right? And everybody, might be some similarity in the culture in a wider sense. That could be better. But the trip is made individually by ourselves. We have to decide which things to sift through to get rid of and to keep.
You have to want it.
You have to want it, yes, ratzon. Yes? That makes sense? Yeah. So here, it's a personal choice according to the way we are. Okay? We're all disciplined differently by God. It's the bottom line. We're all disciplined, spanked by God differently. Use your will and your understanding to make the choice if you want it. These are not my words. This is the words of a rabbi. If you want it. Yeah?
Kind of like count the cost.
Yes, count the cost. Some people want it more than others. That's all. Go within yourself. Menachem Mendel of Kotsk said lechacha could mean go into yourself. That's actually literally what it means. Go to you. Go inside yourself. Avraham, prepare yourself mentally for the rigors of the journey. That's what you need to do. Everybody who's listening to me, you need to prepare yourself for the rigors of the journey to get to know God. Getting to know God is the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. It is not easy. There's no such thing as a simple salvation. There's nothing like that. Nothing. I hate to bring up this verse, but I'm going to do it. The reason I hate to bring it up is because there's so much foolishness said about it. It says in Corinthians 15, Paul says this, Shaul says this, I hope to attain to what? To what? Nope. 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 To the resurrection. To the resurrection. Actually, I think it might be in Philippians. I hope to attain to the resurrection. It ain't a given. I don't like talking about that. I don't like saying it. I don't like thinking about it. Now, Shaul says that, I hope to attain to the resurrection. It's not easy. And this is why there's so much replacement theology in, quote, the church. Because it's easy. Well, Jesus did it all. I'm done. All I have to do is rest in the glory and just, Jesus did all the work. It's not only is that not Judaism, it's not scriptural at all in any way, shape, or form. Faith without works. Ma'aserot, works. Doing stuff. Sorry, ma'asim. Doing stuff, working, is dead. Right? Faith without doing is dead. I hope to attain to the resurrection. So do I. It's not easy. It's got to be a choice if you want it. So I would say to you, to everybody, get prepared for the rigors of the journey. It's not easy. How do you prepare for the journey? Find yourself a tour guide. You're going someplace you don't know. You're going to be asked questions you don't know the answers to. You're going to be required to things, God's going to ask you to do things that you don't know how to do them. So, how are you going to do them? Get yourself a rabbi. Get yourself a tour guide. Samson Raphael Hirsch, this is now in the 1900s. He wrote an amazing Siddur, Hertz Siddur. It's this fat. It's not for the high holy days. It's just a regular weekday Siddur. It's this fat. It's amazing. Samson Raphael Hirsch said lecha could mean go by yourself. So again, go alone. This is one journey that must be made alone. One must leave all that is familiar and become a stranger in the world to be able to accomplish greatness. You could say that about everybody and everything that becomes great. But about Judaism, it's impossible. If number one, you don't have a tour guide, a rabbi, and number two, you don't use your will to do it. And count the cost. It is not easy. And then this is interesting. Go authentically as you. You just told me to leave everything about myself. Now you want me to go as me? I'm the problem. Yeah, the real you. Problem is, who is that? Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, he's still, I think he's still alive.
Yeah, but he's no longer chief rabbi.
He's no longer chief rabbi of England, but I guess he's still alive. Lots of videos of him on the internet. He says, lecha means go with yourself. Take yourself along. Your beliefs, your way of life, and your faith. But he's talking to who? Jews, not Christians. And that's the problem. To the Jew who's raised in Judaism, you can say, take your authentic self. But for the one who's leaving behind non-Jewish life, paganism, thank you, who's leaving paganism to do a Jewish life, you cannot say this because they have to find their authentic self. We all do. We all do. Okay. Abraham did all these. So we have 3 passages that say lecha in the Bible. Did you know this? There's 3 passages. I've already told you 2. I never thought about the third one. I'm so dumb. Genesis 12. Lecha el haaretz, arecha. Go to you, to the land that I will show you. Genesis 22. This is the one I keep forgetting about. Valech lecha el eretz hamoria. Go to you, to the land of Moriah. What's the land of Moriah? Where is that? Where was he going to kill his son Isaac? Mount Zion. Jerusalem. The heartbeat of the land of Israel. The heartbeat of the kingdom. He says it here too. Lech lecha el eretz haMoriah. Go to you, to the land of Moriah, which is Mount Zion. Numbers 22. Shalach lecha anashim vayaturu el eretz. Send to you men to tour the kingdom, tour the land. So, go to the kingdom alone for you. I'm not even going to read these. I'm talking too much. Okay, so here's the bottom line. God says, I will make you, Avram, a what? A great Gentile. When? When he gets to the kingdom. Okay? So, Edom, Ishmael, Babylon, Rome, and I don't have Greece here. God says, I'll make you a great nation now. The reason I don't have Greece is because there's no scriptures that say that to Greece. But he does say it to Edom, to Ishmael, to Babylon, and Rome, by extension from Edom. God says this to these people. I'll make you a goy gadol. But that's now. Now. Remember Nebuchadnezzar's dream? When he sees the giant idol and he saw the head of gold, which is Babylon, and he saw the chest and arms of silver, Medo-Persia, and then he says the groin and the belly of Greece, and then he says the 2 long iron legs of Rome. Those are the kingdoms now. God says, I'll make you a goy gadol, but not then. Now. Genesis 17, as for Ishmael, I've heard you. Behold, I will bless him. I'll make him fruitful and multiply him, and I'll make him into a goy gadol. Now, during this life. A lot of things we do are from Ishmael. And I'm going to say this again because there still seems to be some confusion. Edom has nothing whatsoever to do with the family of Ishmael. Edom is a completely different family from Ishmael. They are not the same in any way, shape, or form. Genesis 25, 2 Gaim, nations, Gentiles, are in your, Rebekah's womb. And 2 kingdoms, Leumim, will be separated from your body. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Now I'm almost done with this book I'm writing called 2 Nations Are in Your Womb. And it's about this. It's the most important story in the entire Bible. Abraham doing Judaism is the most important verse in the entire Old Testament. But this story is the most important story in the Bible because it tells all of human history from beginning to end. And it says you got Jews and you got everything else. You got Jacob and you have, who's the other kid? Esau, Edom. That's everybody else. And here's what I'm going to do with that equation. And the whole rest of the Bible talks about what he's going to do with that equation. So, he says 2 Gaim. Now, it doesn't say Goyim, it says Gaim. But it's read, when we're reading the Torah, guess how it's read? Goyim. Goyim. But it's written Gaim, which means great person, exalted person. There's two of them in your womb and two kingdoms separated from your body. One will be stronger than the other. So therefore, he's a goy gadol. Stronger than the other. Goy gadol. Big goy. Big Gentile. And who is it? No.
No, Jacob.
Jacob. He says one will be stronger than the other. Who's the stronger? Jacob. Right? And the older, that's Esau, will serve the younger. That's Jacob. So, the stronger one, the big one, is Jacob. Make sense? So this is also, he says to Jacob, I'll make you a goy gadol, even while he's in the womb. So we have the same pattern. He said it to Abraham, now he says it to Jacob. Genesis 46. So Israel set out with all he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob, don't be afraid to go down to Egypt, because there I'll make you into a goy gadol. So now he said it straight up to Jacob. I'm going to make you a goy gadol. And what did he do? He gave him 70 kids there in Egypt. Deuteronomy 4, driving out from before you nations, goyim, greater and mightier than you, Israel. So therefore those other nations are what? Goy gadol. Now. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome again, Jebusites, Canaanites, Girgashites, etc. They're all the same. They're mighty nations, but now, on this earth. And I'll give you their land, the kingdom, as an inheritance, just like it is today. Job 12, he makes the nations great. Goyim Gedolim. He makes the nations great. Then he destroys them. Okay, so this is the bottom line. During this earth, there's going to be Goy Gadol, Goyim Gedolim, great Gentiles. But what does God do to them? He destroys them all, so Jacob can be a Goy Gadol when? In the kingdom. So Abraham can be a Goy Gadol when? In the kingdom. Does that make sense? He enlarges the nations, the Goyim, and then he leads them away. All gone. Those who are of the faith of Abraham will be a Goy Gadol. So he says, Abraham, I'll make you a Goy Gadol in the land that I show you. Yes? In the kingdom. But now you can say that about all those who are of the faith of Abraham or Avram. Yes? So what's the faith of Abraham? That's the question. Yeah. Right. It's Judaism. Genesis, where is it where it says Abraham did Judaism? Genesis. Nice try there, buddy. Genesis what?
26:5.
Woo! You heard your dad say it, right? 26:5. You're right. 26:5. Genesis 26:5. It says Abraham did what? The watches. Well, he listened to my voice. Thank you. He listened to my voice and he did the watches, mishmarot. What else? Mitzvot. No, hold on. And if you want to call that commandments, you're saying Abraham did the commandments? And then what? The chokim, the statutes. And what else? Mishpatim, judgments. And now comes Torot. 5 synonyms for the Torah that Abraham did.
While he was in Babylon.
While he was in Haran, not Babylon, in Haran. And then he came down to Canaan, at Shechem, at the oak of Moreh, and he taught it. In this book that I'm almost done with, Two Nations Are in Your Womb, and I've never done this before. I don't know why. I looked up all what the rabbi said about Abraham doing Judaism. I never did it before. I thought Nachmanides was the only one who said anything amazing about it. I was so wrong. It's in the Talmud. It's in the Midrashim. It's in the Mishnah. It's in the Mishnah, which is like the how-to of how to do Judaism. It's in the Mishnah that Abraham did Judaism. And I quoted all of them in this book. So, Romans 4 says this. And the father, Abraham, was the father of circumcision to those who not only, he's the father of circumcision to the ones who are not only of the circumcision, but who also, who's that talking about? Gentile. He's the father of circumcision to Gentiles who follow in the steps of the faith of our father Abraham, which he had while he was uncircumcised. He did Judaism while he was uncircumcised, which the rabbis confirm. And he's think about what he's saying. Abraham is the father of circumcision. To who? Jews. Well, anybody else? No, just Jews. That's why they're circumcised. No. He's the father of circumcision to Gentiles.
But I think that's also using circumcision as a picture of.
Not here. It's not an idiom here. We know because he says it. It's not an idiom. He's the father of circumcision, literal circumcision, to those who are not only of the circumcision. Now that's the idiom. That's the idiom. Those who are of the circumcision, that's just an idiom for Jews. Yes? That's an idiom. But here it's not. But who also follow in the steps. Where's the idiom there? It's just physical. It's normal. It's straight up. Those who do the same thing of the faith of our father Abraham, which he had while he was physically uncircumcised. This comes right out and says Gentiles who come into the body are supposed to do what?
Judaism.
How about keep it as simple? What Abraham did.
Yeah, same thing.
It is the same thing. But if you say that, what did Abraham do? Judaism. And then you can prove it. Genesis 26:5. I mean, there is no clearer passage in the New Testament that I know of that says Gentiles who come into the body are supposed to do what Abraham did, Judaism. Does that make sense? Now this should arm you. It should arm you. It should give you weaponry, defensive weapons, so that as you walk your walk, you know what to say. Does that make sense? I'm trying to help you by giving you the answers to these questions. Genesis 26:5. For your father Abraham listened to me, kept my watch, my mishma'at, my establishments, my mitzvot, my statutes, my chokim, and my instructions. Torah. Mishpatim is not here. Judgments is not here. My establishments, my chokim, my instructions. Torah. Yeah? That's what Abraham did. That's what the believer is supposed to do. It doesn't get any simpler than this. This is why, well, I won't even go there. Romans 4:16, same chapter, just a little bit farther. For this reason, it is by faith, in order that it may be in accordance with doing Judaism is accordance with grace? Yipper. So that the promise will be guaranteed to all the seed, not only to those who are of the Torah, except it's not Torah, it's dot, the curse of the law. Not only the people who are keeping the curse of the law, which is mostly Jews, but also to those who are of the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all. Is dot the faith of Abraham? No, it's the curse of the law. So he's saying, but you know what? The blessing is going to come to both the Jews who are under the curse of the law and Gentiles who are under the curse of the law, which is even worse, and to those who do the faith of Abraham, which is looking at it as pictures and letting it teach them and guide them and change them. like Abraham did. Now, this to me is astounding. You look like it's not like flipping your lid, but it's freaking me out. It's amazing. I don't know if you've ever read this verse like this, but it's crystal clear. So, my question is, where did he get his faith to do Judaism? There was no Torah. 430 years before the Torah was given. My question also is, was he a Gentile or a Jew?
He's a Gentile that did Judaism.
And by the way, if you type in on the internet, was Abraham a Jew? Was Abraham a Gentile? It's going to blow your head apart. He will be a Goy Gadol. But when will he be a Goy Gadol? I think I've established that. When will he be a Goy Gadol? In the kingdom. And who's a Goy Gadol now?
Everybody.
All the other kingdoms. Everybody. All the other kingdoms. So he got his faith from doing the Torah.
Right.
That's how he got his faith, from doing the watches, the statute. I'm sorry, the set up things or establish things, the statutes, and the Torah. That's how he got his faith. He, a Gentile, halachically, say the rabbis. I'm going to say that again.
Well, yeah, because his mom wasn't Jewish.
He, who's a Gentile, halachically a Gentile, say the rabbis. You're not listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He was not a Jew.
Right.
Halachically, what does that mean?
According to the way you do Judaism.
Okay, according to the way of you do Judaism, what does a Gentile have to do?
Convert.
No. Nope. Not even. The Noahide laws.
Oh, yeah.
The 7 Noahide laws. So that's what the rabbi's saying. This is important. They say, all Abraham had to do was the 7 Noahide laws, but he didn't. He did all the Torah. So it was a choice. It was a personal choice to hear God's voice tell him Jewish stuff. Does that make sense? Think about what I'm saying. It was a choice on his part to go, okay, what am I missing here? I mean, this can't be all there is, the 7 Noahide laws. This isn't giving me the whole story. What else is there, Lord? God, the one God. And he tells him all 613 mitzvot. Now, this is what the rabbis say. But he was the first Jew. How is he the first Jew? Yeah, he circumcised himself, right? And so he looked like, physically, the first Jew. But halachically, he's not. He's a Gentile. He will be a Goy Gadol in what? Oh, it should in the kingdom. In Gentiles coming into the kingdom. Oh, no, that's correct. He will be a Goy Gadol how? When Gentiles come into the kingdom. When all the Gentiles come into the kingdom, they have the faith of Abraham. And they are then part of Abraham being a Goy Gadol. Mm-hmm. Yes? That's what I was saying. I didn't have enough room to say all that in one sentence. That's a space problem. Yes?
Can you read a scripture, because it's talking about Gentiles doing Judaism, Gentiles coming into the kingdom, they're coming in as Gentiles, and I can't remember where it is, I know it's in the New Testament, that says, remain as you are, like, you don't have to be.
I'm about to go over it.
Oh.
So, we have this. Romans 4:12 says, Gentiles are supposed to follow in the steps of Abraham, the Gentile, who did what? Circumcised himself and then did all the Torah. Pretty simple, right? A Gentile doing Judaism. The scriptures that call Gentiles, and I want you to hear me because I get this all the time from believers, mostly Messianic Jews. We're not Gentiles anymore. That means pagan. It does not. Because in the New Testament, the Gentiles who are coming in are still called Gentiles. And here's your proof. And by the way, this is only some of them. There's many, many, many more, but I ran out of space. Acts 15:14 calls them Gentiles. Acts 15:17 calls them Gentiles. Acts 21:25 calls them Gentiles who believe. Gentiles who believe. Gentile believers. And they're doing Judaism. Why are they called Gentiles?
Because they weren't born Jewish.
How about because they're Gentiles? Yeah, because they weren't born Jewish. Romans 11:13. You who are, not used to be,
Right.
you who are Gentiles. And this is in Romans 11 when he's talking to a firmly established messianic congregation of Jews and Gentiles in Rome. Been around for more than 20 years. Firmly established. 15:10 in Romans. Rejoice, Gentiles, with Israel. Ephesians 2. Gentiles in the flesh. And 3:1. For the sake of you, Gentiles. And there's a whole bunch more. You can find them yourself. Don't ever say we used to be Gentile. You are a Gentile unless you choose to convert, which you can if you want. Nothing's stopping you. But there's no requirement to be converted. Quote, by the way, there's no word for convert in Hebrew. Not in the Bible anyway. And here's the verse that proves it. Shaul says, I tell everybody the same thing. How many congregations did Shaul tour around to? Anybody know?
At least a dozen, right?
Closer to 20. Closer to 20.
A lot.
I tell everybody the same thing. If you're circumcised, don't seek to be uncircumcised. Now, this is an idiom. To be uncircumcised means be a Gentile. If you are uncircumcised, if you're a Gentile, don't seek to be circumcised, a Jew. Do all the Jewish stuff, but don't say you're a Jew. Don't try to be a Jew. Don't try to be something you're not. Be authentic. Circumcision, being a Jew, is, what does it say? Is nothing. Circumcision is not, really? Tell that to Abraham. Circumcision is nothing. In other words, in this matter that we're talking about, circumcision has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, in this context.
In this context, circumcision, being a Jew, that's an idiom,
Right.
being a Jew is nothing. And uncircumcision, being a Gentile, is nothing. It's not even appropriate. It doesn't even enter into the equation, is what he's saying.
Right.
But what matters is what? Keeping the mitzvot of God.
Doesn't matter.
And that's for Jew and Gentile. So then everybody ends up looking what? Jewish. Everybody ends up looking like a Jew. Right? So, say we really start doing what we're supposed to be doing. Just imagine if everybody started doing what they're supposed to be doing Judaism, which we don't. I mean, we do it a little bit here and there. But can you imagine if we really did Judaism and really, really listened to it, talk to us? Listen to what I'm saying. And then a Jew comes in and he talks to you. You're a Gentile and he talks to you. And he says, oh, are you a Jew? What do you say? Hell no. But, I mean, and I know this because I've had one person in my life who did this with me. One! Out of 45 years of walking with God, I've had one Gentile actually do this. Everybody, every other Gentile that I've ever known, talked to, met in Messianic Judaism said the same thing. Well, Gentile means pagan, so no. Well, are you a Jew? Yes. They turn into Jerry Lewis. Maybe lady. They don't know what to say. And it makes sense that they don't know what to say, because nobody ever tells them this. Right? One guy. God bless Joe Good. God bless Joe Good. I said to him, you're not a Jew? No. I'm a Gentile. I was raised totally pagan, totally Gentile. Back then, he equated pagan with Gentile. But he explained it. I said, what do you mean pagan? And he explained it to me. And then I said, that makes no sense to me. You know more Judaism than anybody I've ever met in my life. And you're a Gentile? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he showed me this verse. He said, I'm not a Jew. I'm a Gentile. And it made perfect sense. He was being authentic. He was just being himself, only learning Judaism and doing Judaism to the best of his ability. Okay? Are we all okay? Yeah? All right. Big thumbs up. Okay, those of you who watch on the videos, please send comments if you're confused. I know this one is like a deep, difficult one. And people, rather than making comments or asking questions, not making snide comments, but asking questions, they'll just go, eh, and walk away. Ridiculous. So, make comments, ask questions. You know, if you really want to understand this, and you just can't get your head wrapped around it, do your research and ask questions. Okay, let's pray. Lord, thank you for showing at least some people your plan and how it works and the details of how it works. And I thank you for revealing it better and better all the time. I ask that you to reveal it to the bulk of your body so they can understand it. And I ask, Father, that you'd help us to learn how to turn away from what we need to turn away from and how to cling to what we need to cling to, even though we don't even know what it is. So we need you to teach us what it is, how to do it, what it means, so we have understanding of your day, your kingdom. And I ask that your Ruach would braid together with your Torah all throughout the earth, and that you would teach us all. Teach us all so that we can be B'nai Avraham, children of Abraham. In the name of Yeshua. Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.